Hi everyone, thanks for being here. Today I want to talk about what makes something exist as a product. Not about money or markets, not about productivity or efficiency, but about the conditions themselves: recognition, segments, completion, and why understanding those conditions matter more than you might think. So, starting with productivity first is quite good because it involves everything. When you involve a product, it also requires the health of the individual because that person needs to come in. That client needs to come in and show up. That means he needs to monitor his health. He needs to have good relationships with other people. He needs to talk to people. He needs to know how to, discuss, schedule, sell, all of that. All of these requirements lead us to one single point. If he is the product himself, and this is where it really strikes home, because if he is the product himself, which in basically every product that you think of, it is that. You are the product. No matter if you are part of the production line, selling, or any role, at the end of the day, you will always be the product. And this is where it really develops the idea of what is a product. It's not only the profit that you make, but it's the people who make it. When I first started thinking about this, I used productivity like everyone else. Efficiency, speed, optimizing output. But here's the thing. Productivity doesn't ask whether anything actually exists. It only asks how fast you got there. A product passes through 5 segments: concept, design, team, development, and market monitoring. It only completes when someone else recognizes it, not because you made it, because someone sees it as necessary. Here's the key. These aren't rigid categories. They shift along a spectrum. A handcrafted item emphasizes coordination over machinery. A digital project emphasizes documentation over physical assembly. I'm exploring what makes something exist as a product, not from an economic standpoint, but from a psychological, ontological one. This is about the conditions of creation and recognition themselves, independent from capitalism, socialism, or any political system. This is where it gets deeper. A product is complete when someone recognizes it as necessary, not when it's technically finished. Think about a blueprint. You could spend months designing a house, but if nobody can build it, if it doesn't fit the area it's supposed to exist in, if there's no one who understands how to use it, it's just a rock sitting on your desk. Or think about something simpler. Imagine you bake bread every day. You perfected the recipe. The flour is measured. The temperature is just right. The loaf comes out perfect every time. But you never sell it. You never give it to anyone. No one tastes it. No one needs it. No one recognizes it as something that they could use. Is it a product? Technically, it is bread. Psychologically, it sits at the lower end of the product spectrum. Now, put that same loaf of bread in front of a hungry person walking by. Suddenly, the bread becomes something more. Someone recognizes it as necessary. It is the recognition, not the baking, that pushes it higher on the completion scale. But here's the critical part. It was always a product, just less complete. Recognition doesn't create the product, it reveals its level of completion. So whether it's a blueprint on your desk or an unsold loaf in the kitchen, they exist, but they occupy different places on the spectrum. The moment someone recognizes them, the product becomes more fully itself. Recognition moves the product along the spectrum. It does not turn it on or off. When people recognize products, they're responding to one of 3 psychological needs: healing, addressing past wounds, but also creating space for growth and progress; therapy, wellness, medical care; education, skill building; sustaining, protecting the progress that you have already made. It can be sturdy stability or fragile stability, depending on your situation. Some people are very stable, but certain stresses can make that fragility visible. The purpose isn't just maintenance, it's protection. Trades, consulting, coaching, insurance, security systems. Regression. Operating from a place of relative loss. When circumstances or environments strip away stability, knowledge, health, and rest, you move from sustaining into stagnation. Sometimes it's escape. Sometimes it's just what happens when the ground shifts beneath you. And here's the thing that ties all three together. The body's goal is always to find balance. That's what it's wired to do. When something tips, whether it's a wound, a threat, or a loss, the body will try to regulate. That's why people get hooked on things that seem harmful. That's why they go to extremes. Not because they want destruction, because they're trying to restore equilibrium. This applies to physical items and services. When someone sells their occupation, they're selling themselves as a product. The freelancer, the consultant, the hairdresser. They're not just offering a service, they're offering relief from someone else's unprocessed need. Not all products operate at the same level. Some are commodities, single transactions with no redistribution. A one-off street sale. You buy once and that's it. Some are full products, redistributable, scalable, multiple segments active. A mass market item that moves through channels and keeps moving. And some are blueprints, concepts that require activation by user or an era, philosophy, math equations, design. They exist as ideas, waiting for the right conditions to become something more. Now, to understand completion, you need to know what I mean by the 5 segments. Concept. Can others understand this? If only you understand it, it's not a product yet. Design. Are the specifications detailed enough to transfer? What will it look like? How does it function? Coordinated team. Are the roles distributed and understood? For solo work, this is minimal. For larger projects, this is where it gets complex. Development process. Tools, methodology, production cycles. This is where labor and occupation time gets allocated. Market monitoring. Can this product exist in the current conditions? And what are people buying? And how do we price it? What psychological need does it address? Each one has its own percentage score. So you could have 80% concept and 20% development. Everyone understands it, but production is weak. Or 30% concept and 90% market. It sells easily, but long-term sustainability is risky. Total score tells you completion level. Individual percentages tell you health. That's why looking at the final result alone doesn't reveal you everything. You can't see team health. You can't see design quality. You can't see how easy it will be to sell. All you see is what's sitting in front of you. And sometimes that's not the whole story. Every transaction happens when a seller and buyer psychology aligns. Worker seeks income and stability. Buyer seeks control and efficiency. Terms favor whoever holds the leverage. Value depends on market pressure, desperation level, availability, not intrinsic worth. Many professionals selling labor cannot easily diagnose their own exploitation. The eye cannot see itself. You absorb market demands while trying to meet them. Generational trauma drives recognition, not as political critique, but as anthropological observation. People are trying to heal old wounds, maintain stability, or escape pressure they didn't personally create. When someone looks at a product, they're responding to an inherited need, one that predates them, stretches back through family, through culture, through time. This is universal. It applies across economic systems, historical periods, and geographical contexts. A handmade pot in Federal Europe, a digital file in 21st century capitalism, a tool in ancient Greece. Different eras, different systems. But the recognition works the same way. Each becomes a product when someone sees themselves reflected in it through their inherited psychological landscape. What binds these three moments together isn't the product itself, it's the recognition of needs passed down through generations. That's the constant. I'm still working through the open questions. What makes a product complete? How does the trauma dynamic shift across economic classes? Can self-verification work, or is exploitation built into the model? This framework is not finished, but it's getting clearer. What do you think? Where does it land for you? Thank you for listening.